Hi class, this week we're going to focus on exercise 8, phase 2 of the integration of applications. And this is going to be within Illustrator. So the first thing you're going to want to do here is create a new artboard. So go ahead and do File, New once you launch Illustrator. You're going to want the width to be 4 inches, the height to be 4 inches. Name it exercise 8 underscore and then your last name. Say OK. Color mode, CMYK, of course. So I've already done that, and you just want to make sure you save it somewhere that you remember. And the first thing you're going to want to do is create some sort of graphic. I would suggest maybe going to your shape tool. There's a star, there's a polygon. Make some sort of shape on the page. It doesn't matter what it is unless you have something very interesting and specific in mind. This is a great opportunity to practice creating something that you've been wanting to create as a vector image for a long time. So, but most of all, I don't want it to be too complicated as we're just going to be practicing a couple of the tools here. Afterwards, we're going to be placing them within InDesign. Both the collage, phase 1 of this integration of applications for the exercise 7 from last week, and this one as well. We're going to be placing these into InDesign. So I've created a graphic here, and it's a light bulb, and so I want to show you how I might customize this and add some interesting effects to it. We're going to be using layers, and we're also going to be performing effects and functions, as well as understanding paths, gradients, distort and transform as well. So I just placed my light bulb here. You want to make sure that you have your layers available, and you can go ahead and name the layer light bulb, or in your case, if you're doing a star, name it star. Okay. Go ahead and create a new layer. You're going to name this text. And so we have 2 layers within the document, and that's all we're going to be working with right now. I'm going to go ahead and add a color to my light bulb. The first thing I want to do, there we go. Okay, so I added this teal color, and I want it to be a gradient. So one of the things that you can do is pull out your gradient panel by going to Window, Gradient, and select your image. And of course, if you look at your layers panel, you should be selected on the light bulb layer. And you want to make sure, if you go to the gradient tool, that you're creating a gradient that you like. So if I select on the gradient, it kind of defaulted to a gradient I was experimenting with, which I do like. But a lot of times it might default to black and white here. So I'm going to go ahead and make it the way that we might see it. So a lot of times if you pull out your gradient panel and you have your object selected and you click here, it will add the gradient that you last worked on within Illustrator. Okay, and I don't want that, so I want to go ahead and pull out that teal color from my swatches. I'm going to drag it and drop it right on top of this little gradient tab. And it automatically adds it here. Okay, I want another color for here. So one of the things you can do is you can grab, let's say I use green, drag and drop on the other tab. So I've got sort of this teal and green thing going. I don't want it to go from left to right, so I want to add an angle. So now it's going from top to bottom. And I don't want it to go in each one of these small ones. I want it to go from the top to the entire bottom of that light bulb. So because I'm in the gradient tool, I can then drag my pointer from the top of here to the very bottom. And now it flushes across the entire image. You can also switch it. For example, I don't want the green to be first. I want the teal to be first. So you can do that by doing that. Just going to this little area that is a reverse gradient. Okay, selection tool. So our first function is completed with this exercise. The next one I want you to do is to go to your text layer, and I want you to go ahead and grab your type tool, and I want you to type on a path, and that will be under your type tool in the hidden tools. So you can click right on here, but look what happens, your gradient goes away. So we don't want to do that. One of the things that you might want to do first is to create a path with your pen tool. And a lot of you may not have worked with the pen tool often, but you can go ahead and click and drag. Option click and drag. So I sort of done this, and then option click. So I sort of done this path. I don't want it to have anything in the fill. Now I can go back to my type tool. Make sure you're on the text layer. Now go ahead and put your type on a path cursor on that path. And type in something, whatever you want. I'm going to do ideas are hot. Okay, I'm going to enlarge it once. Go to my selection tool. And one thing you can do within your selection tool is you can click on these little areas here, these little handles, and center your text. Okay, so I'm going to triple click on there because I want this to be a semi-bold. Just make it a little bit more prominent. And I also want it to be the same color that I'm working on. So there we go. Maybe not that green, maybe this green. There we go. So now I've added some interesting things. I've added text on a path, type on a path. I've added a gradient on my image. And the next thing I want us to do is to work on understanding distort and transform. So one of the things you can do is select your graphic and go to Object, Transform. You can go to any one of the transform commands. One can be scale, reflect, rotate, or move. I'll go ahead and do a reflect. And then we'll do a horizontal reflect. You can hit preview so it shows you what it's going to do. And then do a copy if you want. So now I have another graphic of this light bulb right on top of the other one. I'm going to drag it downward. Okay. And I'm now going to make this a gray, like sort of a light gray. Maybe even lighter than that. Okay. And I want it to be a gradient as well. So we'll do this, and then we'll drag a very light gray over here. And then we'll drag a white over here. And then I also want to go to my gradient tool and drag it from top to bottom here. It's not exactly, we're going to reverse that. There we go. Now, what I want to do is have it as a reflection. So, one of the things I can do for that is adjust the gradient. And look at it like that. That's more of like a reflection. And we really don't even need this. We can just delete that altogether. So now I have sort of a reflection. I used my transform and my reflect. And I noticed that this green one is there. So I've aligned it. Now I want to go ahead and move that down just a little bit. They want to be touching. There we go. Bring this to the front, object arrange, bring to front. So I have sort of a reflective thing happening here. Lastly, I want you to also work with distort. So one thing you can do is if you go to your text layer and you select your type, it looks to me like I still have my type on my light bulb layer. So you can actually go to this little tiny, while it's selected, go to this little tiny square and move it to this next layer to make sure your text is on the. So I'm going to try just making sure that we add some effects. We're going to go to warp. You can also do distort and transform, which is one of the things I thought would be interesting for you guys to try. I'm open to any one of these effects, but I'm going to try warp, and then I'm going to try, we'll try bulge. You can do preview. And you can see the different interesting things that you can create with type. And that would be it here. So I've sort of created this weird little thing, and if you hover over it, ideas are hot, you can still see where its original is. Now, if you were to create outlines and make this type into image, as we tried in in our earlier exercises, you would no longer be able to see that. See if I go to type, create outlines. It's now type, and you can only select the original. Okay, so that's this week's assignment. Go ahead and save it. We're going to save it for proper use, which would be File, Save As, AI. I only want you to be saving these as an AI or a PDF, only because that's the only way I'll be able to open it and see if you've done the right thing. So make sure you have two layers, a shape and a text layer. Work with the gradients, work with the paths, gradients and distort, transform, any of the effects, and then we'll make sure that we include these in our next week's exercise. And that's this video. I'll see you in next week's exercise, folks. Bye-bye.